This is going to be a fairly long program because at the end of one of these weeks, we tend to be, I think, sort of ebullient in terms of our wishes to sort of embrace everybody in the figurative sense, of course. And I guess that's what we're going to do for a while here, is we're going to try to recognize the people who did the work all year long and during this particular week. We're going to recognize the people that keep us going as a company. We're going to review with you how the week went from the perspective of a few sick individuals that we have running cameras and things. You know who you are. And then we're going to try to conclude with some sort of action plan, because I've learned in my 3 years of corporate that any meeting, whether it's 15 minutes or half an hour or 3 hours or a whole week, isn't worth anything if people don't leave with some sort of action plan. All too often we have a way of walking out of those things and saying, let's see, what was that about again? This meeting definitely has a conclusion and an action plan. First thing I'd like to do is hand out a couple of recognitions for people in my organization who've made particular contributions this year. The thing that keeps us going in the market, if you look especially at the slides that Jack showed you on Sunday, is the constant regeneration of new products sold to old customers, new products sold to new customers, and old products sold to new customers. In other words, business we had one year and we didn't have the year before. And every year since I've been here, we've given some sort of award to people who were the best at bringing in business of that type. In North America this year, we had a somewhat unique situation. We had one guy who closed one account that was a new account and brought in, I think, around $5 or $6 million. We like him a lot. We have two other guys that brought in about 6 new accounts apiece that totaled up about, I think, $3-4 million bucks between the 6 of them. And as I sat in my little room and tried to figure out how this was going to go, I decided that I liked them about as well as I did him. So we'd like to give out 3 of what we call our Prospector Awards. A guy who goes out in the desert with his mule and his pick and chops away and comes back with something brand new for us to put in the safe. And the 3 for this year are in no particular order other than alphabetical: Steve Clasby, Andy Dietrich, and Ron Rochelle. Just for all of you people who might not have been here as long as all of us, the reason everybody was yelling Bill was a couple of years ago, Steve Clasby got an award that was ironic in 2 different ways. The first and second most ironic way was that he was given an award for closing an account that never bought anything. Which puts these awards sort of in perspective, doesn't it? And the second, but most ironic part is, the president of the company who gave him the award introduced him as Bill Clasby instead of Steve. So if you think that all sales meetings run as smoothly as this one, you're obviously mistaken. If the company runs on new business, and if that's what keeps regenerating ourselves and keeps us going, then the people who are responsible for that as much, if not more, than the salespeople are the sales engineers. We've been through a lot with these guys, and we've been in different organizations, and now we've been in the same organization. I can't think of any group of people, including the salespeople, that I feel more proud to have to hold up in front of the corporation and say, these people belong to me. Because there is nothing that these people will not do if it's within their power to help us score and help us satisfy the customer. I mean that sincerely. There just is nothing. I've never seen one of them delay for a second on their own personal behalf to go off and do what needs to be done. So, if we give one of these guys an award and call them the Sales Engineer of the Year, as recognized by their management, I believe it means a lot. The person we're talking about's really only been with the company for a couple of years. He came from one of our distributors. He's been a couple other places, I think, in between there and here, but that's where I know him from. I've been out to his house a couple times. He's got a tremendous record collection. Likes to listen to the same kind of music that I do. And if you know me, you know that I like nothing more than to be able to go into somebody's house, take my shoes off, put my feet up, maybe have one sort of light cocktail and listen to some music and talk. And it's really good to be able to have a guy who's a really good performer who is a really good performer at the same time. So the Sales Engineer of the Year this year is a guy who takes care of such accounts as T2I, all of the distribution up and down the Atlantic seaboard, and supports all of the Dataproducts New England printer installations that are done, around the Beltway in Washington, D.C. I'm happy to give this award to Bob Carter. Sunday night we gave the OEM Salesperson of the Year award to John Capadisi. I told you he had to go back to Jersey to be with his daughter. Word is she came through the operation really well. Prognosis is, takes some time to know, but she certainly went through the operation fine. I think you'll be glad to know that. But because distribution's become a big part of our life, and because OEM is sort of the cornerstone of the company, we've chosen recently to divide the thing into two pieces. The distribution salesperson as well as the OEM salesperson. And I guess I told you Sunday night about a guy who's come about as far as I think anybody can come. And he proved it by exceeding his quota by more than any other person in the distribution network. I'd like to give this award to Mark Wiesendanger. Is Bob Wallstrom out there anywhere, or is he off making some phone calls or going to some meetings or something? While Bob's up here with me, I'd like to remind you that we have a North American Sales Award that we do every year that goes to the person that we think supported the field selling activity to the extent that's greatest in terms of the way we can measure. And it would be unfair to say that we aren't somewhat myopic in how we measure this. But what we tend to see is the person who can take a situation in the field that may be of some crisis proportion and help us make that crisis go away, because we hate that. We hate it when customers are upset. We hate it when we think we're losing. We hate it when we think one of those scummy goddamn competitors is winning. We hate it when things aren't going right. And we're absolutely unreasonable and ridiculous to talk to about it when that situation occurs. And I would never have it any other way, and don't ever forget that. A year and a half ago at Comdex, we introduced a product called the 1230. We started shipping it about a month ago. It would be insulting to you to tell you there's been a few little bumps in the road along the way. Minor opportunities, Bob says. That's marketing talking. But when we sat down in our little august body and talked about who did the best job of saving our bacon all year long when we were having problems, one name was almost unanimous. And once we had some discussion, it got pretty easy. I'd like to give the Inside Support Person Award to Mr. Ken Shields. Sometime before Ken goes back to Woodland Hills. By the way, we told Ken we had it down 12:30 in the middle of a workshop and he better get his butt out here and help us fix it. And that's his reason for being here, so as soon as he stops shaking, maybe you'll understand what this is all about. But to help him stop shaking a little bit, we've also generated a check for $1,000 for him, too. I'd like now to turn the podium over to Bob Wallstrom, the Vice President of Marketing for Dataproducts Corporation.
Thank you, Keith. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always nice to see that sales allows marketing to participate in these things. Did you ever notice how sales is always whining about something? We had a meeting this morning. We offered to do proposals for sales, and they told us how it wasn't going to work. They told us how they didn't like the way we did proposals. It's really hard sometimes to work with sales, you know that? You know, they give us forecasts. The forecasts are never right. And then they call up, and they say, "Where's the product?" So we didn't forecast it. But you should have known we were going to need it. Yeah, they call up.
Excuse me, Bob. Now, this is not my first sales meeting. And when I joined this company in 1976, we had a product called the 2550, and a van broke one day and killed a sales engineer, right? You know. So it's not a pretty sight to see Kevlar rip a man's stomach apart.
It doesn't always work right. I mean, there's got to be a few problems to make it interesting.
But the thing is, you know, our competitors seem to always do things better than we do, and we're always there late, and we're having to scrap and fight for every dollar we get, and you guys never understand that.
Well, you just don't understand how hard it is to get these things done.
Yeah, but you don't understand how tough the competition is, Bob.
Well, it's not really that hard. You guys just get out there and do your job.
It's just damn near impossible because we have nobody to help us.
Wait a minute. You know, I just had a strange feeling. While we're up here arguing and fighting and bitching and complaining with one another, I'll bet you there's some Fujitsu scum out there taking an order.
I don't see him, but probably are.
Small. Powell and Harker are probably out there figuring out somehow to take business.
You had to say that, didn't you? That's a really cheap shot. I'm going to have a drink because
Maybe we ought to approach this slightly differently.
like what would you suggest?
You think maybe we could work as a team?
I don't know, we've been arguing for 10 years. I don't know how we can do that.
Well, you know, we kind of did it with DAC and Data General recently, and I think we got an order.
We did get an order. We also got an order from Burroughs back in 1978 on just sort of a window where we happened to be together for a moment.
Maybe we ought to give it a try.
Maybe it'd work.
Only for you, Keith. But we would like to present a couple marketing awards in spite of all that. I'm really proud of the organization that I've inherited here recently. And there's a couple of key performers in the organization I'd like to recognize especially tonight. One of the very important things in a marketing program is to understand where your competition is and to understand the market that you're going after. And we have a very key player that I think all of you recognize and appreciate very much. I'd like to give the first award tonight to Donna Wheatley. You thought they'd never do anything.
They don't do that.
The second award tonight is one that I think exemplifies the way we'd like to see the sales and marketing organizations work together in the future. We talk a lot about teamwork and about team selling. And when we talk about it, we have sort of a vision of everything's going to go nice and smooth and easy. But we've had a program going on for some time within the corporation that hasn't really gone real smoothly. And I think through some teamwork, and more even than teamwork, through some real dedicated perseverance, we were able to land a major piece of business. That piece of business is the ATV business. That's a long program, and we had a person in Milford who was very, very dedicated and just worked day and night to make sure that thing came together. She worked with engineering. We went out, looked at the marketplace. They were out looking at the customers, the real applications out in the field where the action was going on. Went around to all the major airlines, explained to them how airline ticketing really worked, and got to the position where the airlines called Dataproducts to learn about airline ticketing. And I think that's just a major accomplishment for an organization that didn't know what to do with an airline ticket. Kathy Nicholas has done just a super job. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Bob. We'll see you.
Well, since we've bristled through our awards rather rapidly, like we said we would, we'd like to call up now a person who I'm sure can be as brief as we were, Mr. Leo McGarry from the Supplies Division.
Where's Billy coming, folks? Here it is. This is Dublin plant.
Thanks, Keith.
You're welcome, Leo.
This is the second year that supplies, sales and marketing have joined with the rest of you in this great meeting. And it gives me great pleasure and a lot of pride to know that we've integrated extraordinarily well with the whole group. Not only at the meeting time, but also in the field. The way we've worked together at accounts, we've even integrated to the point where Rodell Arperia changed over and gave her very considerable sales skills to the western region on the printer side. I'm delighted to know that you guys go out and sell some printers so that the company can really make money through our supplies. That's what we really need. We got our business in small orders. $1,000 is a lot of money to us. A $10,000 order is a really big order. And a $1 million contract, we would travel a long distance for a $1 million contract. But when it comes to a piece of business where there's an excess of $3 million hanging on it, we would raise the people who can capture that to St. Paul. And we've had two people working with Big Blue for the best part of 2 years in order to capture wide ribbon business. We were competing with an enormous number of very powerful competitors in this field. And that we won it is due very largely to the unstinting efforts and the skill and the dedication of two people, one in Chatsworth and one in the Washington sales office. To Dick Michelson and Terry Maley, we owe a very sincere debt for 2 years of continuous hard effort to capture Big Blue. And just a fantastic job of work for those two people. Keep it up, we need some more. We do recognize the people who do an outstanding effort, and it's unfortunate that this year we didn't have any winners on the Star Club. But someone who got very, very close, boy, we were urging him on. Every day he was on the phone 2 or 3 times to find out how his numbers were going. But Tom Bolenbeck has done such a fantastic, outstanding job in Dallas. He has the best performance within the supplies division relative to quota. He's achieved his numbers through building solid distributor base in the Dallas area. He's grown the business over FY86 by 32%, which is quite an outstanding performance. So Tom, I'd like to recognize that performance and ask you to come up and accept an award. Someone else who, in a very quiet way, built the business, built her distributors, both with the people she currently had, and she went out and built new distributors. She's from the Show Me State. She exceeded her quota. She grew the business over last year by 42%. Susan Surface, you did a hell of a job. Come on up. And unfortunately, Bruce Elliott could not be with us. He was the man who wrote the Supplies Dataproducts Shuffle, and we did really appreciate his effort in that regard. But we wanted to recognize one terrific job done in the Chicago area by Bruce. He's been building the territory there. He probably has the best distribution base in the country by a long way. He exceeded his quota, he got 104%. He's grown the business substantially over last year by 28%. I know he can't be here, but I'd ask Barker to come up and accept the award on his behalf and to convey to him our good wishes. And now it is my pleasure to call on the man down under, the land of wonder, Paul Press.
It's nice to follow someone with a foreign accent for a change. I was asked by Bowserman to make sure that we sped things up, so I'm not really saying anything less, I'm just going to say it a hell of a lot faster. And I'm not going to kiss Keith Bowserman, that's the other rule. Today I had the break of my life, and my first award is to Jack Davis for having to play 18 holes with me, because I thought that was a tough task. I also thought it was the end of Dataproducts Australia as we know it today.
Thank God you're on the other team.
I think that's the only thing that saved you, actually.
I'm presenting the awards on behalf of Pacific Latin America, which isn't only the area that I look after, which is really New Zealand, Australia and Southeast Asia. It's also South America, and Gusty Ives, as most of you would know, was the fellow who was